I got to see you like crying. I don't know why.
Aren't we friends?
We are friends. I think that's why I want you to do it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Live Your Mission Show, brought to you by Mission Meets, where our guests share their most actionable advice so that you can live a more mission-centered life. I'm your host, Peter Alwood, and today we are joined by the founder of Bigger Pockets, Joshua Dorkin. But before we get to that, here's some news from Mission Meets headquarters. Quick shout out to the OC Movement Church, where they did something truly amazing and beautiful for some people this holiday season. They had something called the Give Hope Store, where they had folks from the community that likely wouldn't have been able to purchase gifts for their family, specifically for the children, come to the church, drop their kids off in childcare, where they got to do crafts and other fun things with friends and other kids from the community. The families got to go through and shop for gifts that they didn't have to pay for, get a couple gifts per kid, drop them off at the gift wrapping station, go pick up their kids, decorate cookies, have hot cocoa, listen to Christmas music, visit with Santa. There were some elves there too, and then pick up their wrapped gifts and head on home. And so it was a beautiful thing. Our family got to help out in our little way. But more so as a company, we donated a bunch of gift boxes. And so that when they picked up the gifts for their kids to go get wrapped, they also got to leave with some goodies for themselves. And it was just a cool thing to see them walking around with their gifts, with their gift box from Mission Meets, and just having fun. And truly giving these folks some hope this holiday season, where otherwise maybe it would have felt maybe a little bit less hopeful, or maybe even hopeless. So shout out to the church. They did such a beautiful thing for the community. Now back to the show. Okay. Now on to our episode with Josh Dorkin. This interview went through kind of the backstory on Bigger Pockets, what that lifestyle looked like. And the reason we went through that is so that he could paint the picture for some of his lessons learned throughout living that mission, which was growing literally the biggest real estate website community on the planet. These guys, in case you're not exactly believing me, you got 1.5 million users, 44,000 companies, 4.5 million forum posts, about 60 million downloads on the Bigger Pockets podcast, 17,000 blogs. I mean, this is an enormous community, right? And so he goes through what that life was like. And the reason we share it is because it formed some major lessons that you guys are going to reap the benefits of. And that's his whole kind of mantra of, you know what to do, and how that plays into really keeping your priorities straight, knowing what's most important in your life. And it's not just what society dubs as success, but it's something much, much deeper. And so he goes into all that. He tells some great stories. Some of them are heart-wrenching. And so listen for those as well. And then on the Reaper round, the dude is allergic to garlic. And so he couldn't eat the Reaper. I try to get them to eat some pickles, but pickles have garlic in them too. And the reason I want him to eat pickles is because he hates pickles. That didn't happen. And so he brings his own twist to that mix. So I'll let you listen for that as well. But big fan of Josh and what he's done at Bigger Pockets, but also as a person, he's just an incredible guy, really, really grounded through his lessons. He's become very grounded life lessons. And so listen for all that. It's a meandering, hilarious episode. I think you'll enjoy it. Now, on to the show. Josh, welcome to the show.
What up?
What's up, man? Excited to have you.
Yeah.
You already set a record.
What was that?
For like the longest pre-interview banter on the face of the planet. I think we're what? We got 12 minutes in or something?
It's because I like you.
I know. I like you too, man.
Oh,
Thanks,
live your mission,
buddy.
Pete.
Oh, gosh. It's already off to a good start.
Yeah, man. You make me feel so warm and fuzzy.
I'm honored. I don't even know what to say.
I've
I've never been told that.
Well, you need to work on your wife a little more, man.
Okay.
I mean, yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah. She's good to me. All right, bro. Well, dude, the audience has already listened. They've already heard what you're all about, your background, right? They know you're like the big dog, started
It's all
Bigger
lies.
Pockets and all that stuff, right? But I mean, you've created something huge, right? And you're on the other side of that now, so to speak, right? Is that public
I don't know.
information?
I don't know what the other side means, but
You're doing something else.
I'm huge, baby.
I don't know how you're going to derail me so bad. I can feel it. You already have. So first question is always, when someone asks you what you do, what do you say?
Man, nobody has asked me that question. Would you believe it?
No, that's not true.
Well, I've always had an answer, and the answer is, I'm the CEO of Bigger Pockets, and blah blah blah. Today, man, I'm just living.
Yeah,
I'm just living, man. I homeschool my kids. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm traveling. I'm trying to enjoy this new stage in my life, doing things that I deprived myself of for a very long time because I was so busy. Really, I mean, singularly focused on building one of the greatest companies on earth, and I actually think I did that. So, I know I sound like a cocky ass, but I really do think this is one of the most impactful companies out there.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think you guys did something huge, and I just spouted off all the site stats in the what the heck do I call it? The intro.
Yeah,
I'm blank. I'm drawing a blank. I'm still on this like warm and fuzzy thing you said. Anyways.
Yes. Oh, hello.
So, dude, you go through that. You're talking about what you're doing now. You're trying to revisit some of the things that you've deprived yourself of, right? So let's step back. I want to at least have the listener understand what life was like in the beginning days of Bigger Pockets. Like, what is it that you had to do in order to set the stage for the company as it is today?
Sure. So I have not heard the intro. I'm assuming you got it right.
I got it right.
But
go ahead.
We've had some issues before.
You do it.
What am I doing?
Yeah, you.
This is Mission Meets Live Your Mission podcast, now hosted by Josh Dorkin. So I started this company 15 years ago called Bigger Pockets, the greatest platform there is for real estate investors. But it didn't start that way. 15 years ago, I was a recovering entertainment junkie. I worked in the entertainment business. I had formerly been a stock trader. I sold real estate as a real estate agent, and at the time I was teaching special ed high school in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley. Bought a bunch of property in the Midwest because my brother had recommended I do that. He was making money with property in the Midwest, and I was like, oh, okay, I could do that. Cool. And the Midwest at the time was infinitely cheaper than Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. So I think the first property was like $100,000 fourplex. Wow. I started having all these problems. I bought a couple of properties, little by tenant issues, people stealing, compressors and neighbors tapping electricity and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do here. And I chose not to read any of these books just because I thought I was hot shit and knew what I was doing, and realized that I really should have read a book or two before I did this. Yeah. Because while it's not hard, there's some fundamentals you really want to know and understand before you dive in on real estate. But at the end of the day, I needed help. And the problem was books don't have answers to these issues. So, a book's going to tell you how to analyze a deal, how to find a deal, but it's not going to tell you what do you do when somebody breaks in and steals the copper in one of your vacant units. There's not an answer to that. So I was looking for answers. I couldn't find them in books. There were some magazines, couldn't find them in the magazines. There were a couple websites at the time, but everything in the space was really dominated by these kind of late night TV, get rich quick seminar guru guys, self-appointed, self-anointed. And I was like, I don't know. I felt slimy. I always felt like they were trying to, sell me something, and I never knew if the information I was getting was legit. So I was like, let me start this community. Back in college, I'd been building websites for fun in the early days of the graphic web. And so I started building Bigger Pockets, man, and nights and weekends, worked on it. I was a teacher, like I said, so I was doing it on my free periods. I was doing it, just any chance I had. So while I was working a full-time teaching, I was probably working a second full-time in the first 2 years, building this website, pretty much doing it all on my own and trying to figure out how to even do it. At year 2, I quit my job teaching. My wife and I, who by the way was my boss, and you know her as the amazing Julie.
That's right. Of course.
Yes.
Nothing
Incredible. So we got married and moved to Colorado. And she would commute back and forth and run the school partially remotely and partially in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And I was living in this new town, Denver, just trying to build this company. So, worked 100-hour weeks all the time. The next 6 years was pretty much 100-hour weeks nonstop. We had a couple kids. The day my child was born, I was working on my laptop on Bigger Pockets. Every time I'd visit my family in LA or New York, I was on my laptop. Like you could not peel that thing from my hands. You'd have to, put me in the grave to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knew it, and everyone gave me crap about it. Also, everybody gave me crap about this crazy idea of a website that was never going to go anywhere, never going to make money. Why would I continue doing it? Told me some of these VCs who I had chatted with, trying to get help about building it. And I don't know, but by year 8, that was it. That was my life. By year 8, I was burnt out. I mean, massively burnt out. Came home to my wife one day. Well, came home, I was in my underwear, probably sitting in the same clothes that I wore the night before, and was just in tears and said, Julie, I'm done. After 8 years, I'm ready to shut it down. At the time, I had 0 employees. I'd been working with one developer for the past 6 years. Contract guy who still works for Bigger Pockets today as full-time head of engineering. Amazing guy, Ed Morgan, out in the UK. And she said, we can work through this. I know you've been killing yourself. I know this is crazy. Let's hire somebody before you do anything rash and sell the company or just shut it down. Because we were making money. I was making enough money to support my wife, live a relatively decent life. We had 1 car, we had a house that we own, but we're pretty tight. And hired this consultant, and after a couple months of really going through everything personally and on the business, realized that I had become so stuck in the business that I didn't have any time or energy to focus working on the business. And that sounds really easy and basic, but when you're stuck in it, I think most business owners can't see the forest for the trees. And so I would say for anyone listening, who entrepreneurial, you definitely want to make sure that you're taking time daily, at the very least, to look at your business from the 1,000-foot view, not just each and every little problem that you're focused on fixing and solving, because it's so easy to get caught up. And the problem with that is you never go anywhere. You can't have a vision at that point because you're just doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, year 8, decide it's time to hire somebody. So I found this guy who had been writing for me for a bunch of months. I liked him. He was cool. You know him. He's tall. He's got a beard. It's Beardy Brandon Turner. And I hire him first as a contractor to see if it was going to work out. Worked very well. And a couple of months later, hired him as my first full-time employee for Bigger Pockets. Game changing, not just because he is incredible, But because it allowed me to finally go from 100 hours a week to 99, and it's a big change.
Yeah, big change. Josh, dude, I do want to step back for a second because you're 8 years in. Like, so what goes through my mind is a couple of things. One is, how the heck did you even last that long? How'd you last 8 years working that much? What was fueling you?
So, Jay-Z.
Besides gangster rap?
I've got only one rule. I will not lose. Jay-Z.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah,
mean,
I love it.
So my mom was an entrepreneur. My mom built this incredible business. Dad, ran his own company. My grandparents, everybody in my lineage had some kind of entrepreneurship. And I don't know. I was always kind of like the runt of the litter. That little dog everybody wants to step on. That's whiny and squeaky.
That's you.
That is me. So in order to be successful in anything throughout my childhood, I had to work harder than everyone else. So whether it was athletics or school, I mean, I was pretty good at school, very good at school mostly, but mostly athletics, which I prided myself on. I worked harder than all my friends. They were all bigger, all stronger. And, to me, it kind of became this life mantra of, you've got to work harder than everyone else to be successful. You've got to grind. I met a guy actually back, I think it was 99. We met a friend of mine, Al Thompson. He's an actor. And this was when I was in the entertainment business. We met on the set of a student film. I mean, me grinding was like, I was an extra on a student film. So like, take the janitor, like this job, no offense to the janitors, like this is kind of the bottom job. And I did that because I wanted to learn the business, right? I wanted to get on sets. I wanted to learn, see, and do as much as I could. So he was the star of this student film and I was, the extra, and we befriended each other. And we kind of built this, hustle system, this grind system between us. I mean, we would show up to things, man. I mean, we'd go to like a film festival the day or two before the festival started, and we get the festival book, and we'd literally stay up till like 3, 4, 5 in the morning, sending mail to everybody important who was going to be at the festival, so that when the festival started, they would have a package with our headshots and our information. So we could reach out and have a warm introduction to anybody we wanted to. Incredible. Like that's the mantra that I had. And that's the mantra I always had throughout Bigger Pockets, is work harder than everybody. And there's no way you'll lose. And so back to your question, my 8 years, it's just utter tenacity. And a lot of it's also a bit of a chip, right? Like, I mean, in the early days, I had friends I had a buddy of mine who would call me. He's like, yo, man, I'm walking down New York. Hey, I just found a penny. I'm going to send it to you. That's about as much money as you'll ever make at your company. Like people that I knew, people I loved, talked smack to me. There was not a lot of support. I mean, my parents eventually turned around. They weren't terrible, but they were just like, you should get a job, go be a lawyer. I'm
laughing because when I graduated, I didn't get a job, and I just was running this e-commerce company at the time. And my parents were like, "What are you doing? You're going to play on the internet? You're not. Go get a job."
Yeah. So everybody told me that, right? I don't know. So I just had a chip on my shoulder and was like, I got to prove to everybody that I can make this work.
But how did you know you weren't persevering too long? Like, I think that's also an issue with people where they're like sticking with an idea where you're like, dude, you got to let that die. Like, that's not going to work. How did you know that, even though everybody was telling you that you knew, how did you know you needed to keep going?
Sixth sense. No, I wasn't blindly saying, oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I know it will. Pixie dust. I mean, I had built a community at that point of, I don't know how many members, but I think by year 8, I had to have been close to or well ahead of 100,000 members.
Wow.
So, I mean, there were high tens of thousands, if not more, of people around the country and the planet who were actively coming to this platform I had built. I hadn't figured out how to monetize it in the way I needed to monetize it, but I knew it had legs. And the reason that a lot of I wasn't trying to raise money or anything, but the reason that I think I was getting, kicked down by some of these VCs and experts was my model was different than everyone else's model, and so was my mindset. It was, hey, build this company slowly, methodically. There's no need to rush. We had gone from life's from hobby business to lifestyle business, so we had a decent lifestyle. It wasn't bad, right? I mean, except for the fact that I worked 100 hours a week and never did anything. I was hanging out right next to my kids, but I wasn't present.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that at the time. I was just so caught up.
Yeah. So now you've got this new mantra that you've been slanging. You know what
Live
to
your
do.
mission. Mission meets.
Live your mission. Mission meets. No, you know what to do, right? You did a talk on it recently at the BP Con, right?
I did, man.
You did.
Keynote, 1,000 people.
1,000 people. Amazing.
It's pretty good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next time.
I don't know if you're saying that like
No, I'm serious.
in a nice way, or if you're
no,
trying to be
not.
a jerk. Are you trying to be a jerk?
I'm gonna be a jerk later, but not right now.
Cool. I'm excited about that part.
But you have this phrase that came out of your talk, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean? And how did it come out of your experience from BP, or was it later on in Bigger Pockets that this thought process came through?
Sure. And I don't want to get stuck talking completely about BP, obviously. Yeah. But that was the first 8 years. There was the next 6 years, starting to scale this company, hiring, just building a real business, building a real company. Phase 3 of Bigger Pockets, right? Mm-hmm. At some point, it stopped being as fun as it was in the early days. Mm-hmm. When I was solo, I loved it. When I had my first, call it 8 employees, I really, really, really loved it. I mean, first 2 was amazing, 3, 4, then you have to start thinking, how am I going to scale this? You start adding layers and management and all this stuff, right? It adds complexity to the system. You go from, being this kind of tight-knit group of buddies, everybody who's kind of, risking something to be a part of your business. I mean, even though they were getting paid a fair wage, fair salary, it's still risky being at an early company. By employee 8, 10, 15, 20, it's less risky. You're established. We're very profitable. We were doing well. We were growing. But, as you get more people, you get, we didn't make all the right hires. I had certain people that just were really bad hires. You got to deal with just, what you deal with any growing company, personalities. And so now you're kind of, babysitting's the wrong word, but kind of, channeling personalities and making sure that everybody plays nice together. And then you're dealing with members and you're dealing with all these other users, and it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's heavy.
It's heavy, man. Yeah. So, we were in the last, last year, 2 years ago, 2017, I mean, we were at 30 plus employees. In that year, I ended up, I had 3 serious panic attacks. And I don't know. I mean, have you ever had one, Pete?
No.
Oh man, I'm happy. Yeah. It's really scary, man. It's really, really awful. And
it resembles a heart attack, really, right?
I'm not a medical person, right? But I thought I was I thought I was dying. Yeah, man. Like I couldn't breathe, heart's palpitating, chest is heavy. And you're just in an utter panic. You can't think about anything else. And each time I called my wife and, I'm in tears and freaking out and, she talks me down, and I'm able to kind of calm myself, and, get back up the next day and get back to work and get back to it. And by this time, by the way, I'm not working 100 hours anymore. I had figured out how to put systems in place, and really, I mean, my team was doing great. I know I was saying, hey, it's stressful dealing with personalities. I mean, that's just a fact. But like at this point, I had a fantastic team. The company was crushing it. We were helping, tens of millions of people. I mean, we had this podcast was one of the top 150 podcasts in the world. I mean, the company's amazing, doing amazing, and I'm struggling with these panic attacks. Illogical, right? And the panic, the root of them was always this fear that it was all going to go away. It was this fear that somehow it would disappear, somehow magically, I'd lose it all. And that was terrifying because I had put so much into it for so long.
Why did you have that fear though? Like what was fueling that?
My Jewish mother.
Are you serious?
Was not her in my ear like, Josh, you're going to lose it one day. It's all going to go away. And by the way, she doesn't talk like that. That was, yeah. I mean, kind of. She kind of talks like that. She's got this really thick New York thing.
Nice.
Happening. She's awesome. But I don't know. I mean, just growing up in kind of that, that household, I think there's a lot of weight, I think, on folks of the Jewish persuasion, given the history, right? Given, I've had great aunts and uncles who Holocaust, grandparents, grandma and great grandma, came to the States to escape persecution. I mean, so it's kind of part of your DNA, I guess. Fear, anxiety. It's a terrible thing, by the way. Really, really a terrible thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What was your question, man?
I was asking where it came from because I just had a long conversation with a friend of mine. I've struggled with this too. Like, so I don't know that it's, background. I feel like it's a founder issue, right?
Well, that too.
A friend of mine I had on the a previous show, Slow Hustle, which we, you were on
Slow Hustle. That was your show
4.5 years ago, bro.
Man, that's how we became friends.
I know, it's crazy.
Then we went to Glacier National Park in RVs together, man.
That's right. Right. That's where we really bonded. But no, I was talking to my friend, dude, and he I remember having him on the show, and he talked about how at any moment he just fully expected somebody to pop out of the bushes and be like, "Hey, what are you doing? You can't live this life. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You got to go get a real job. It's not going to happen."
Yeah.
Like it was a legitimate thing. Like, of course he didn't think a real person was going to pop out of the bushes, but it was just him kind of explaining or helping you visualize, like it was a real fear.
Yeah.
That he thought like for some reason something was going to happen and they were like, "Oh, you're a fraud. You can't do that."
Oh yeah. That was a big one, man. That was a huge, well, for me, that was a big one, the fraud part, because, I would always have people who would say, well, Josh, you're this real estate expert and how many deals have you done? Oh, you haven't done thousands of deals. You haven't done hundreds of, and I was like, I never call myself a real estate expert. I created a platform that brought people together to help one another out. Like I never said, "Hey, Josh, I'm Josh Dorkin. I'm the greatest real estate investor on the planet." You can go through every interview I've done, anything I've ever written. Like I would never say that because I know that's not true. Now, academically, I know more than 99.9% of people out there, but I'm not going to necessarily go and say, "Hey, I'm the biggest and best expert there is," because I'm not, and I'm not a guru. Like I'm not. That would make me a fraud to actually say, "Hey, I am an expert," or the expert, right?
But you still had that fear, right? There's still a legitimate, right? People say things. There's still a legitimate fear, like all that weight of the business on your shoulders, and one day it's all going to, And so this is happening, right? You get the panic attacks. What else is going on in your life then?
So 2017, I mean, this is going on. Come November, again, company's crushing it. Everything's going gangbusters. By the way, still is 2 years later. company's crushing it, helping so many people, man. It's amazing. So exciting to see.
Mm-hmm.
2017, November 27th. By the way, a year after my dad had a heart attack, saved his life. To the day, my eldest daughter had a routine surgery. Now, mind you, this kid, when she was 3, had gotten salmonella, spent over a week in isolation at the hospital. We thought she was going to die. 107.5 fever. Scary,
man.
Scary stuff. She'd had multiple surgeries thereafter. She had procedures for that. They'd actually placed it's called a PICC line, which is a line through the arm into the heart. And when they released her, I had to administer medication through this line in her coming out of her arm. I mean, horrifying, scary, scary stuff. She had a couple eye surgeries to correct something called strabismus. It's kind of when the eyes don't line up. Complications of the salmonella, the high temperatures. So this was her 3rd surgery. There's like an 80% success rate on these surgeries. Well, we were in the 20% the first time, the 20% the second time, and now we came in for this 3rd one. Again, routine, the first 2. The next day, she woke up, all was well. On this one, the next day, she didn't wake up the next day, but she went home, and the next day, all was well. Mm-hmm. On this one, the next day came and all was not well. Something was off. Now, we knew something was off. I didn't go into work that day. Called the doc. He said, just be patient. She'll be okay. Her eye didn't open up like it should have. By the next day, she had developed kind of this rash on her face. We brought her in. They put her on antibiotics. By the end of the week, they admitted her to the hospital by Friday. So Monday's the surgery. Friday, she's admitted. Saturday morning, they're telling us they may want to do an emergency surgery because she's got this infection that they worry is going to hit her brain. Sunday morning, by the way, my wife is home sick. Can't be there with us. My other 2 kids are home. And now it's Sunday morning, and the doctors come in the morning. They're like, we got to rush her to surgery, and get rid of this infection, get rid of all this fluid in her eye, because we're afraid it's going to hit her brain and be catastrophic. Mm-hmm. So it was, they rushed her downstairs. They brought her to this room. It was scary. It's a Sunday. Nobody's at the hospital. Usually it's warm and fuzzy when you bring a kid in for surgery. This was anything but. This was like terrifying for her and for us. And with my wife not there, even worse. They brought her in and it was hours and there was nobody in the waiting room. I was completely alone, like not even a person working there. I'm just literally pacing back and forth, putting a hole in the floor. And I had no idea how long it was going to take. We thought we might lose her. Ultimately they came back and they said, hey, she's going to be okay. They had to cut into her eyeball and drain all this fluid and dead tissue and, super scary stuff. And she's going to be fine. And when she came out of it, something was still off, and we're in the hospital for a few days and something just wasn't right. And while she was healing from the surgery, there was just something not correct. And the hospital wasn't great at we couldn't pinpoint it. And they sent us home. Within a few days, she was no longer walking correctly. So her legs were crossing. She was doing something called ataxic steps. So she was walking ataxically, and was not aware that she was actually doing it. We're like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just walking. Obviously called the doctor. They said, relax. Let's just kind of give it a little time, see what it is. Whether it was the next day or the day after, I think it was the next day. I mean, we brought her in to the hospital. I think that was a Friday. By Saturday, we're in the emergency room. She wasn't walking at all, kind of waist down, not moving. did all these scans and said they think it's something psychological. Go home, go see your primary care doctor. This is a Saturday. Kid can't walk, kid can't move. Go home. That was a scary weekend.
Yeah.
Come Monday, go to the primary doctor. Thank goodness they had a psychologist at the office. Psychologist was like, hey, I do think this is something psychological. I think it's something called conversion disorder. Explain what it was. We had never heard it. We're like, that sounds crazy. Now they're like, we need to get you in the hospital. It took 3 days to get in the hospital. Ultimately, I believe what got us in the hospital was I literally called city councilmen that I knew and folks on the board of the hospital to pressure them. Which, by the way, is one of the things that angers me most about all this. Had I not had those contacts, we might not have ever gotten seen or taken care of. And that's crap. That's completely not fair. And it's why we work so hard. We are big donors to the hospital regardless, because we are trying to improve and change things. But they admit her and they concur and they say, yeah, we think she's got this thing called conversion disorder, which is like a PTSD response to some kind of trauma. And typically hits women, typically girls, typically it's like teenage to 20 somethings, and it can manifest in all kinds of ways. And for her, it manifested by the time it played itself out, she was pretty much neck down paralyzed. So, long and short of it was, and I'm sorry to go into such depth on this, but I think it's kind of important. The medical system kind of failed us. We went through this trauma. Obviously, it's not obvious. I never went back to work. So November 27, 2017 was the day before that was the last day I went to work at Bigger Pockets. My full-time job, by Christmas, we pulled her out of the hospital because it was important that we treat her at home and build a warm, kind of inviting environment versus something clinical and cold. And hired a team of experts and OT and PT and psychologists and psychiatrists and out of pocket built this team. And my full-time job was to care for her and help her with all of her needs because my wife couldn't lift her. And my wife's job was to take care of the other girls. By February, we had her moving her legs again. By March, she moved from wheelchair to end of March, I think it was, wheelchair to walker. By April, May, she's walking again. The last week, I think, of school, she actually walked into school and started going to school full time. We had taken her to school before that, made sure that she went into school in a walker. She went into school in a wheelchair. She was going in for a day or two, couldn't hold her head up, couldn't move her anything but her arms, and that was it. My job was to rehab her and be there and support her. And I had a lot of time to think, man, a lot of time to just think about life and had a lot of realizations. And I think that's where What to Do came from ultimately. The first realization was, as much as I love my company, man, and I love my company. I mean, it's my baby, it was time for me to kind of step away. After 14 plus years, I needed a break. I needed time to figure out what was next. I mean, with all that trauma, I needed distance. And so, worked with my team, worked with Brandon, worked with Scott, my number 2 at the company, and decided we were going to put the team on, put the company on the market. And we hired a shop, and it was time to, bring in some partners so I could step back. Went through a process, found a PE firm out of the Midwest that we really fell in love with. Everybody was really happy with them. especially me. And we did a deal. We did something called a recap and brought them in. On the board, I went up to the board. Scott, my number two, became CEO in November of 2018. I officially had new partners and retired as CEO of Bigger Pockets. Obviously, will always be founder, and I am on the board today. But I spent the last year as a board member of the company. Been really exciting to watch Scott lead the company through this next era. It's been very exciting. And I've spent my time with my family, man. We pulled our kids out of the school they were at. It just wasn't a great match. We've been homeschooling them. Something that you guys do, man. Yeah. Are you taking full credit for that? Because when I call you and Melissa and I say, hey, like, what do I do? You're like, I don't know. We just kind of do it. You're kind of useless. I mean, I love you, but kind of useless. The Amustuchegis, Aaron and Kalina,
those guys could take 10% of the I'll take 90%
of the 5-hour school week. By the way,
great book,
fantastic book.
Yes,
yeah, those guys. I mean, game changer for me and my wife. And yeah, man, we've been homeschooling. We've been really enjoying it. But man, a lot of time to think, a lot of time to contemplate life, and long story short, You Know What to Do was a product of all this. And You Know What to Do means you know in your gut what to do. And you and I talked about this before the show. We've talked about it a lot since, in other conversations. But we all have this kind of sixth sense. And I know this sounds kind of wackadoo, but like we all have this gut feeling, when we're doing things. And oftentimes you'll go and you'll do something. You're like, your gut, you feel it in your gut, and your gut's kind of like, nah, man, don't do that. And your brain's like, yeah, man, do it. You got these two little things right on the shoulders.
Yeah.
And I had this conversation at this event, January of this year, with a guy named Sean Stevenson. Amazing man. Brilliant guy. Sadly passed away. I believe it was 2 months ago. But Sean and I were talking about, along with some other folks, about intuition and your gut. And what I realized in the conversation was this: when I looked back upon the last 14 years at Bigger Pockets, and even before that, in everything else that I had done in my life, every time that I second guessed my gut and went against it, it was a bad decision. Mm-hmm. Every single time. I could not find a situation where, because you remember this stuff, right? You know when you violate your gut. And every single time I was wrong. And then I started asking people the same question. Pete, for example, maybe not 100%, but if you look back on your life, when you went against your gut, was it the wrong decision?
Yeah, it was every time, man. And the thing is like, I think about, some of the stuff that you're like kind of referring to. It's, I like the phrase trust but verify. Like my mentor talks about all the time, trust but verify. Right. Yeah. And so there are times.
I never said that to you.
You maybe did.
Am I not your mentor?
Oh no, you're not.
Damn. That makes me sad, bro. Live your mission, Pete.
Live your mission, bro. So, you trust but verify. And there's all these times where I want something to be a certain way, and I want to make a decision a certain way, and I'm trying to look for evidence to support that, right? We all do it. We want to buy a certain house or a car. We want to make a business decision, and we'll look for information that's going to like support that, right? But instead, I'll go to people that I respect and say, hey, I know you've got information, you've got expertise in this area. Can you walk through this with me? And I've done this with you too, man, where I'm like, hey, I'm trying to make this decision. Can you talk through this with me? And I'll look for
reasons to do it, right?
No, I'll more so just look for like kind of the common thread, right? And so there was a recent decision I was trying to make, and I interviewed probably 5 friends of mine. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to make this decision. And 4 out of 5 were like, dude, you should not do that. What are you doing? And they all had similar reasonings why. And so even though I wanted to do it, my gut was already telling me like, you shouldn't do it. And I went for information to kind of back it up, whether support or go against what I wanted to do. And in the end, I didn't do what I wanted to do. Right. I didn't make that certain decision, even though my mind was like, dude, do it.
Yeah.
Like, this is what you need to do. But I knew that there's something off my gut. And so I went on a mission to kind of verify whether it was right or not. And so I just think that's what you need to do. Right. So you know what to do.
Yeah.
I would just add upon that. It's like, hey, if you're conflicted, go talk to people you respect. The problem with most people, though, I think, is that they don't invest in relationships, and so they have no one to turn to.
Yeah.
Right. And entrepreneurs are really, really bad about this. Right. We work in isolation, and then we like lean on ourselves, and that's where a lot of that pressure comes from. And so you need people that you can lean on and say, hey, man, I'm having a hard time with this, and they can shed light on it. Right. And then you'll be like, oh, I knew that all along. Right.
But it's not only business, right? I mean, you know, these are life decisions. These are family decisions. These are health decisions. Across the board, we ignore, you know, that little voice in the back of our head, you know, and as host of the Bigger Pockets podcast, this came up almost in every single interview. Those people that I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people over the years, those people who I have met who have success in business, who have found this sense of contentness and happiness in their life, they're the ones who've trusted the voice that said, hey, I got to take a risk and I got to try something. I got to step outside the box. I got to work in a way that is kind of outside the norm of what everybody I know and everybody I love is telling me I should be doing. And that's scary, right? Starting, a side hustle of real estate investing while you're working a full-time job is scary. Quitting your job because you've built this little business is scary. Being an entrepreneur is scary. Life tells you, you know, you got to fit in the box, right? Be a good employee, you know? Yes. Look, good employees are amazing, but not everybody's made to be a good employee. And you know, on the inside, if you are longing for something else, and whether it's becoming an entrepreneur or just quitting your job, so many people, and the reason I keep harping on job, because 80-20 rule applies to everything, man. I can easily say 80% of people out there hate their job. Why do you want to be in the 80%? If you hate your job, do something about it, particularly now when the economy is solid, right? Like, you have a chance to do something about it. Do it. Find your happiness. Chase your happiness. Life is too short, man. And a lot of this also thinking for me came out of some books and interviews I saw and had with a guy named Jesse Itzler.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I love Jesse, man.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, Gary Vee, man. Both were life is short and you can die. In fact, Gary has done some stuff that cracks me up. Like anytime somebody will send him a text like, hey, what should I do about this? And his text response is always, you're going to die. And like people who don't get it are like, wow, that guy's an ass. Right. But it's literally the best advice you can give and the best advice you can get. You can drop dead tomorrow. And I realized that when I went through this with my kid, man, that like life is precious. Life is short. And I should not and will not spend any more of it doing something I don't want to do. And so that's where you know what to do came from. It's life is short, man. You can die tomorrow. Live it large, you know, live it big, live your mission. Mission meets.
Listen, man, thanks for sharing the story. First of all, I can't imagine how hard it was. I know we were driving the rig through Denver, stopped by to see you and kind of, you know, witness some of what you guys were going through. And I just remember thinking like, I can't imagine what it felt like to see your kid go through that. And just, I mean, you were fortunate enough to be able to stop working and fund this thing yourself. Most people don't have that ability. And so it was amazing that you had that opportunity and fortunate. but then there's also so much to learn from it, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, regardless if you go through that sort of situation or something else, I think the lesson is that you've got to be paying attention to the signals that your body's given you, that your mind's given you, that your family's given you, that something's got to change, right?
Yeah.
That life is passing you by. If you have kids and you're listening, I mean, they're growing and it's not going to stop,
Yep.
right? I've always thought about how this day's past, like I'm sitting here talking to you, my kids are doing whatever they're experiencing. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to experience it with them. It's over.
All
Right.
right. I'm out of here, dude.
Right.
Sorry, man.
I love it.
I mean,
but
it's like, go.
Right. You got to go, right? Because it's not worth it. And so here's the thing I think I want to be super clear about is like, we're not telling people to go quit their job like
Correct.
today. Right.
Correct.
Be responsible with it, but at the same time, be paying attention, right? You went through 14 years. There were probably more years than you needed to go through to realize what you realized, right?
Yeah.
We all have a walk we got to go through. I say this all the time. You got to go through things in order to learn them, but sometimes you can shorten that timeline a little bit, right?
Oh yeah.
We're just so damn dense and we're so in the weeds, like you said earlier, that we're not paying attention to the fact that life's passing us by. We're enjoying life less and less. We don't like what we're doing anymore and that we need to make a change.
Yeah.
And so what to do is, I mean, I think it sums it all up. It's like, you got to be paying attention to that.
Hold on, man. I'm busy. I'm texting right now.
Right.
Because I mean, that's what we do, right? I mean, we sit on our phones and we text and we get lost and our kids are right next to us. I mean, to this day, I mean, my kid, we are no tech at my house. I mean, our kids have iPads for school, but that, and then they'll put on their sleep stories at night, but like they don't get to play on the iPad. They don't get to do, and I know like there's a little deprivation there, but I mean, for us, we want them to be present when we go to dinner with our kids. Like they could sit and hold conversations with us. They're not whining. My 6-year-old does not sit and whine at an hour, 2-hour dinner. I mean, she maybe once in a while, but like, I mean, she could get through it and have conversations.
Yeah.
You don't get that anymore because we're not spending family time together. We're not eating dinners together. We're not having breakfast together. We're not asking our kids, not just, how was your day? Oh, it was good. Cool. Bye. We're not diving deeper and having real relationships with our families. And we're not doing it with our friends either. Right. We're just posting on Insta and getting FOMO and all this crap. Right. And so, life today, I mean, life goes fast. Life goes fast. You don't have time to think. And so, you got to slow down. You got to slow down. And I think that's why I'm kicking off the show that I'm kicking off. I mean, that's why I love guys like you. I mean, we get into these deep conversations and just kind of go at it. Right. And it's so rare to find people who do that anymore because everything's so superficial and transactional.
Yeah. We've forgotten how to live, man. I mean, that's kind of a dramatic statement, but like, dude, this is why we created businesses. This is why you hold on a job. This is why you make money. It's not to make money.
Yes.
Right. We're not living to work. We're working to live. And we've forgotten it, man. We've forgotten all of these things.
I forgot it, man. I mean, I lost a lot of time.
Yeah. So for the listener, the audience, the viewer that wants to take your experience and help them live out their mission, what's your advice to them?
1, you're going to die. 2, 18. You have 18 years with your kids. That's it. Like year 19, they're out of the house. Like, so think about the amount of time that you actually have with them. 18 years is not a lot of time because they're in school most of the time. You're at work most of the time. When do you get to see them? After work. I know far too many people who have outsourced all of that. And so when do they see them? They get a half hour, maybe, once a day because the kids have to go and do their homework and everything else. Right. And then on the weekends, we overschedule ourselves so much. And we overschedule our kids so much because we got to get them into the best college, which by the way is meaningless because frankly, what's your college degree worth? It's worth a hell of a lot of debt. And yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. College is valuable.
Yeah.
But like the point is, like, we do all this stuff just so we can put it on our application for college, right?
Yeah.
Like, stop over scheduling. Just live, like, hang out with your kids, watch a movie together, have a conversation, play a board game.
It's great
You know,
advice.
slow down.
It's great advice, man. And the 18-year thing, I've brought up to so many people, and every time I've brought that up, they're shell shocked because they got a 12-year-old. They got a 13-year-old.
You got 6 years left. That's it.
And here's the thing. It's like not even the best 6 years. And the only reason I say that is because they're going to get more and more involved in their friends. They're going to get a thing called a driver's license probably.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so like 80+ % of the time you're going to spend with your kid throughout their entire life is in the first 18 years.
Yep.
You only got 20% left, dude. What are you going to do with it? Right. So we take it for granted that these kids are in our house and they're part of our lives. But dude, it's going to be in a blink. Right. My mentor always says, 2 blinks and they're out of the house. I got somebody ringing my doorbell now. 2 blinks.
You want to go get it? I'll take over.
No, I'm not. No, you've already taken over.
But by the way, speaking of that, there's a poem, and man, I'm gonna Google it while I'm talking to you here. So it's called The Dash, and it is by a woman named Linda Ellis. And if it's okay with you, I would like to read this poem, because this poem is one of the most meaningful poems I've ever read.
Okay.
And you can go to the-poem.com to find it. So I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth, and spoke of all the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For the dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who love them much know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love, and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. To be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you lived your dash?
I love that, man. Thanks for reading that.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, dude. We have the title of our episode, The Dash.
The Dash.
I love it.
You got to get Linda on and talk to her.
Yeah, that sounds great, bro. Now, let's move on to the Reaper Round. This is where our guests answer some rapid-fire questions while they attempt to eat an entire bag of Carolina Reaper jerky. But we've got Josh Dorkin on the show, who's allergic to garlic, and he thinks we're going to make
that's kind of personal, man.
Exception for him, right?
That's kind of personal.
Can I say that? Can I say you're allergic to garlic? Is somebody going to come after you with some garlic?
I've had people threaten me with garlic. I mean, it's scary stuff, man.
I love.
Yes, I'm allergic to garlic. By the way, how long have you had your meat company now?
4 years, man.
So 4 years.
Yeah.
We've known each other for 4.5. Yeah. And I've known for about 2.5, 3 that I've had this garlic situation.
Yep.
And I've requested not just once,
a couple times,
some jerky with no garlic, and
I haven't produced for you, bro.
No, man.
I think we should have a Josh Dorkin stick. Like, I think I'm gonna name it. Like, I'm gonna put your face on.
I mean, everybody likes Pete's meat, but like everybody out there is gonna want to get their hands on my stick.
So what should we do, man? Should we make a Josh Dorkin stick?
We should definitely make a Josh Dorkin stick. Well, so here's the thing. We were trying to find an alternative, right? We were going to have my wife eat the Reaper jerky, but she actually just had a big surgery, and
not a good idea.
They told her she should not, or at least she said that they said it. I think she made it up, but it's all good.
I would if I was her.
And then and anyone who knows me knows that I absolutely detest pickles.
That's right.
Now, one of the big reasons I realize I detest pickles is pickles have garlic. We
Mm.
were actually, you said, hey, let's go buy some pickles and we'll have you eat a pickle. It'll be funny. I'm like, all right, I'll eat a pickle. I'll vomit on the show while you ask me these questions. But
You're
fine.
a good friend. You're a good friend.
I would have done it for you, Pete.
I
But
appreciate it.
Julie went shopping and she saw at the store, like every single jar of pickles had garlic. And she's like, you can't do that. So I present you with some options, Pete.
Okay, I'm
Are
ready.
you ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay. So option 1. I have this giant box of Toblerone. Yes, quite large.
You're gonna eat a whole Toblerone.
Oh no, I'll eat a triangle. So we can do that. That might be acceptable to your audience. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I have a box of dark chocolate sea salt almond bark, something that a lot of people find completely detestable.
Okay.
So that's another option.
Those both sound actually kind of tasty, dude. I don't know.
Hold on.
Okay.
All
right.
Third option.
I don't know what that.
Friend.
What is that?
That is some sausage meat. That is a stick of sausage meat. So now this.
There's no garlic in there.
There's no garlic. This resembles it's turkey. It's turkey sausage.
Okay.
Now it doesn't have the Carolina Reaper flavor, but
Okay.
at least like while you eat yours, I could chew on a stick of meat and enjoy myself.
Yeah. I see this.
I'm just gonna. I'm just gonna eat it.
You're just gonna eat it.
Oh, that's good. So
You're supposed to be in pain right now.
oh, it's detestable. It's horrible. The pain.
I'm gonna
me.
Listen, I will find some pickles without garlic for you, man.
Okay.
I'm gonna mail it to you.
Okay.
All right.
So how are we gonna do this meat round then?
I'm gonna ask you questions. You're gonna eat all 3 of those, I think.
I can make a sandwich.
Yeah, with some chocolate and the sausage.
That's gonna be terrible. But I'll do it for you because I care.
I appreciate that, man. All right.
I have some diced potatoes too. I could put those in there.
Diced potatoes.
Yeah.
You just eat it all with a spoon or a fork or something. Just dump all the chocolate in there.
Chocolate.
Yeah. Okay. All right. First question.
These are cold, so just for you.
Cool. You're putting the diced potatoes on the chocolate.
Well, yeah. I mean, you want it to be. Where's your meat, by the way? Aren't you supposed to be? Meat?
No, I ate mine already. I recorded myself and ate it. You missed it.
Whatever,
you
dude.
On Instagram,
Right.
I ate a whole bag.
All right, here we go.
Yeah. That looks disgusting, dude. Very good. Question number 1.
Yeah.
While your mouth's full with 3 disgusting things put together. Your favorite book? Could be something you read in the last year or a classic for you. Doesn't have to be business related.
In the last year, I would say, last 2 years, Monk Who Sold His Ferrari was one of the most impactful. And I would say, criminy. Why am I forgetting Jesse's book? Living with a Seal. Living with a Seal. Well, I read that too. Living with a Seal. I got to tell you, if you want a book that will make you laugh out loud, there is none better than Living with a Seal. I would read this book when I was going to bed, and like I would just howl laughing out loud, and Julie would always just yell at me about why am I disrupting her, and I'd read it to her and she'd start cracking up. So yeah.
Okay. And this is the seal is David Goggins, right?
David Goggins, yeah, man.
Right. Who's also a machine.
That guy is the definition of a machine. I'm going for more, man. This is
yeah. So you're not suffering though. We definitely got to get you some pickles, bro. I got to see you like almost vomiting, like crying. I don't know why.
Aren't we friends?
We are friends. That's why I want you to do it. All right, man. Question number 2. Any quotes you live by? Besides you're going to die.
See the dash.
See the dash. Okay.
Live the dash. Live your mission. You know what to do.
You know what to do. They all work together.
Yeah, man.
Best under $100 purchase.
For you or for me?
For you. That's impacted your life, like most recently.
It's got to be a book.
Yeah?
Got to be a book.
Which one?
Probably one of the ones that... I mean, come on, man. This is kind of redundant, bro.
Well, it's going to be a purchase, right? There'll typically be like some piece of tech or some software
For under $100?
or a new pair of shoes that you love.
Oh, I don't really have shoes that I love.
Okay.
I don't really have man, you know what it is? It's this camera that's allowing me to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It brings me joy.
See, I bring you joy. Not warm and fuzzy. I bring you joy. We're going to have a lot of quotes for this.
I got another sausage right here.
I'm hungry now.
So, sausage and chocolate. It's a shockingly good combination. I'm like, I want more. I think I just snorted.
All right,
It's
next
really
one.
good.
It looks good. I'm actually really hungry now. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life? Or to put it another way, what have you changed your mind about? Something you were like adamantly believed, now you believe to be false.
In the last 5 years, a couple things. From a business perspective, core values are bullshit.
What do you mean by that?
So that was my former belief.
Okay.
Not core values, but like, company values. Like I didn't get it. I didn't understand what it meant.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got it, I was like, oh my God, life changing. I thought it was just one of these like warm and fuzzy things, but having that realization, and creating core values for Bigger Pockets. I thought it was pretty revolutionary for the business, and I thought it really like created this serious bond for everybody. So that was one. I think success and happiness are. I used to believe they were. Just so intertwined and connected, man.
Mm-hmm.
And after just chatting and meeting so many people and going through what I've gone through, really realize that we've been lied to our whole lives. Success is not money. Success is not wealth. Success is not, winning, so to speak. Right. I think those are all awesome things, but I don't know, man. Success is like contentness, happiness, having a supportive group of friends, having a family that loves you, being there for them, just enjoying your life, having balance.
Mm-hmm.
I think far too many people are not balanced anymore, and I was one of them. So I think that's one of the biggest things is you can be balanced. It's okay to be balanced, and you can be balanced while you're running a company. You can be balanced while you're an employee. You can be, balanced when you're retired. Because at all these stages in our lives, we get out of whack.
Yeah.
So,
and I've said it again. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's okay to be like that for a little while, right? Like you starting BP, couple years, gonna grind, gonna wear all the hats. Just don't do it forever, right?
Right.
That's what happens to us. We just keep working like that forever.
Well, because we get stuck, right?
You get stuck, and you hire more people to take on things, and you don't relieve yourself. You just add more stuff. We just can't. We can't live that way. We got to keep our priorities straight, I think, is what it really comes down to. Now you're onto the Toblerone.
What, you said I have to eat it all, right?
Yeah. You're going to eat all of it? All of it?
I've pretty much eaten all but that, so.
So a little bit left.
Yeah.
A couple things, and I want to talk about your podcast real quick. What's something a regular follower of your work wouldn't know about you?
Oh, man. What's interesting is, as open as I am about certain things, I'm also pretty private about a lot. Mm-hmm. What would somebody who follows me wouldn't know about me?
That is a huge Toblerone.
Listen, by the way, Toblerone, if you're looking for a show to sponsor, I will gladly have you. This stuff is crack. And I've never had crack, but this is what I imagine it would be like.
So good.
Yeah. All right. They wouldn't know that I like Toblerone that much. No, I don't know, man. I wear the same pair of underwear every day. No, that's not true.
That's disgusting.
I don't know, man. That's a really good question, and I should probably have an answer prepared, but I don't.
No worries, man.
I have I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 12 books on my bedside table and concurrently read all of them.
You skip back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why is that?
Squirrel.
Yeah. Can't keep your attention.
Maybe it's that. Maybe it's, on almost every book, very few that it is hard to talk with this much chocolate in my mouth. I think that's part of the point here. So
Yes, it is.
almost every book you read, you're going to get to a point where you're like, okay, I know this, or I'm bored, whatever. And then you jump a couple pages ahead and you're good again. So when I get to those points, I switch it up.
Got it. What should I have asked you, but I didn't?
Damn, man.
It's kind of fun stumping you, man. I think you're like kind of unstumpable.
You're definitely stumping me. What should you have asked me, but you didn't? I mean, we could have talked for hours.
Yeah, easy.
And you put some artificial time limit on this, so I'm, feeling cut short here.
Yeah.
But I don't know. When's the next time we're gonna hang out?
That's what I should have asked you.
Yeah, maybe.
When are we hanging out next, man?
I don't know. What do you like to do in your free time? Like now that you're like, living this new mission, like what drives you? I think that's a pretty good question that I've gotten a fair amount of times.
Yeah. So what drives you, man? Besides putting a crazy trampoline together in your spare time.
That was a lot of fun. I have chocolate all over my floor. My dog is going to kick over and die when he licks it all up.
Yeah,
it was really hard. That nougat, man.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to talk.
It just gets stuck. So what was the question?
What drives you? It's your question.
I would say the desire to make the world a better place for my kids. I'm trying to bring up 3 amazing children in a world that's far different than I imagine it would be. And I'm kind of sad by a lot of the things out there, skipping politics.
Yeah.
I mean, just the environment it's crummy here, but I mean, you go overseas, you go to places like India and China and other countries, man, I mean, you can't even go outside in some of these cities because the air is so bad. The waterways around the world are terrible. I mean, you and I missed each other in Hawaii by like a day, but like every day I was in Hawaii and I was on the beach, we made it our mission, my kids and I, to like pick up every little piece of trash that was in the water and in the sand and the beach. And it was horrifying. You can't walk around without seeing garbage on trails. We just don't care anymore. Corporate responsibility, personal responsibility. I mean, it's all out the wayside. So, for me, one of these things is just like, how do we convince people to start taking personal ownership? It's so easy to say, well, there's 8 billion other people. Like, what difference does it make if I pick up the trash? What difference does it make if I spit my gum out on the street, or if I, keep buying plastic plates instead of washing a dish or whatever, right? I mean, like whether it's, how big corporations are using all these chemicals and farming techniques that destroy the land and make it unusable and damage our health, man. I mean, polluting our water, making water undrinkable in different parts of the country and the world. So this is the stuff that drives me, that keeps me up at night. And, this is the stuff that I donate money to, that I put thought towards, that I am hopefully going to explore and bring awareness to through my show,
I love it.
amongst other things.
I love it, man. Let's talk about the show real quick. Undeniably Curious
Yeah, man.
launches sometime early January.
Hopefully,
Is that right?
or late, or we'll get there.
Sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll come out.
Okay. All right, man.
That's coming out in January.
Okay. We will link to that show as soon as it's available. It's going to be undeniablycurious.com. What's your domain?
It is Undeniably Curious. I'm Googling it just to make sure that did I register it? Yeah, no, it's I'm kidding, man. Undeniablycurious.com.
Okay.
And it's UND podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Insta.
Okay.
And it's, hopefully we have conversations like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Dive in with some really interesting people. I read this book, and I'm for some reason I can't freaking remember the name. Hold on. Okay, so it's called A Curious Mind.
Okay.
By Brian Grazer, and the title goes "A Curious Mind: The Secret to a Bigger Life." So Brian Grazer was like Ron Howard. It was his producer, like producing partner, TV film.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote this book about how he had these curiosity conversations. And, Brian Grazer is this mega star producer who could get anyone on the phone. It was very different for somebody else to be able to have access. But when I read this, I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was a great book, really enjoyed it. But it had me spinning on like, hey, when I launch my personal show, if I ever launch one, like curiosity is really at the heart of who I am. Mom always called me Curious George, and I'm sure everyone's mom called them that too, but it stuck with me. And I love asking questions. I love probing with questions. And
still coming. I love it.
Still coming. Yeah, man. I'm a real curious guy, and I want to try and get to the core of like what drives people and how to live a happy life, and how successful people find their way, and whether that's success in dance, in the arts, in business, music, politics, you name it, nonprofit, philanthropy, all that stuff is really fascinating to me. And so that's what we're going to look at, man.
I love it, man. Looking forward to the show. You're great behind the mic. Obviously, you've got a lot of practice. So really looking forward to that, bro.
Thank you.
For the listener that wants to keep tabs on what you're working on, what's the best way? Undeniably Curious for sure.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter. And it's hard because I know not everybody is on Twitter. Yeah. I love the Twitter. I don't know why that's funny, but
I don't know why.
at JR Dorkin on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, though I've thought about shutting down both Instagram and Facebook. I don't know.
I know.
It's one of these things. We need some alternatives out there.
Totally.
But so I'm on there. Just look me up and reach out. But this is exciting, man. I'm pumped for Mission Meets. I love what you do. I mean, actually, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. I love what you're doing from the perspective of a friend. Like, I mean, if you really want me to love what you're doing, you need to make some garlic-free, allergen-free, safe meat for me, man. Like, I want people to eat the Josh Dorkin stick. I mean, I want Josh's stick to be lined up in a package right next to pizza meat.
Listen, if there's nothing else that came out of this show, it's the Josh Dorkin stick. I think it's going to happen.
That would be incredible.
Dude.
It better taste good.
It'll taste great. It'll taste delicious, but there'll be no garlic.
Why do we have to use garlic in the meat stick?
I'm not sure.
This is your company, right?
I know why we use garlic. It's because it's delicious, man. It's because it's delicious.
Did you know, by the way, that garlic is literally in almost everything? When you go and eat out at a restaurant, like there is a 90, I'm making up these stats, but it's probably
Everything.
80-20 rule. It's in everything. Like chefs, literally, bam, bam, garlic. Like
Always garlic.
it's in everything.
Yeah.
And for people like me, it's horrible to be with me when I go out to eat, because
I've been with you, man. I've
very
been with you.
difficult.
You're at the restaurant. You're at the restaurant. They gotta go talk to the cook. They don't know what's got garlic.
Oh, they don't know anything. But by the way, I just got back from Europe, as you know, and in London, I think it's like mandatory there. It's required to know everything that's in every single dish, and they have these special menus. So you can literally. It was so easy to order there. I mean, it was like a no-brainer.
It's like your dream come true.
I'm moving to London. That's it. Hello, crikey, blimey! I'll be really good there.
I think this is the best. This is the best place to end the show right here.
Cheerio.
You doing impersonations of a British accent. Josh,
yes.
Thanks for being on, bro.
Oh man, this has been fun.
Later, man.
Later.
Thanks so much for tuning in. It means so much to me and the entire Live Your Mission team. Now, at the end of every episode, what do I say? I say, please subscribe, leave a review, share the show with someone, because that's the best way for us to grow this show, grow our reach, and spread the news about how other people are living their mission and how you can apply that to your life. So if you could do that for us, we'd really appreciate it. And then also, we're putting out content that viewers like you have asked, listeners like you have asked about, right? Stuff that you want to learn about, topics and people that you want to hear from. So if there's anything like that you want to share with me, email me directly, peter@missionmeets.co. That's peter@missionmeets.co. And I'll do my best to oblige. Now, if you would like to consume a bag of Carolina Reaper jerky and do it on video and share it on social, and because you want to be selected to win $100 of free Mission Meets products, and you also want the notoriety of being selected, which I think is pretty big deal, right? I think it's a big deal. At least in our world it is. And so if you want to do that, post on social, tag us, #Mission Reaper, and who knows, man, you might win. All right. And that's it for now. Till next time, get out there and live your mission. Thanks so much.